What's going on, everyone? You're listening to the Antonio Chauran Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Antonio Chauran, and thank you all for tuning in. This is going to be an episode dedicated to another top 10 list um, through now we're 3 quarters through the NFL season now, which is, I mean, I feel like I say this every time I do a list like this, but it's just flown by. It's crazy. I mean, we're already nearing the end of 2024 and just like that it's going to be 2025. So it's crazy how fast it's just been going lately. I feel like every time we start the week I'm like, oh, it's Monday. I'm recording on a Monday. Next thing you know, it's going to be freaking Friday, and it's yeah, time is just going by way too quick. But in terms of the NFL, now it's that time of season where you're really seeing these teams come into fruition and you're seeing what they're really all about. Every team has played at least 12 games up to this point. Some 13, some are coming up on their bye week now. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think we do have a good idea of pretty much all of these teams are about. And so when I go through this top 10 list, we're really going to see just, and look, my personal opinion, why these teams are where they're at, especially comparing it to week like 8 or 9. I think I did it after week 9, just so each team could have played at least 8 games up until that point. Um, you're going to see a drastic difference because this list is different. I think there's only one team that has bumped onto the top 10 and one that's gotten off. Other than that, the top 10 teams rearranged a little bit. So I'm curious what you all are going to think of this list because I guess this will give away at least one team. I had to be objective. I had to be objective. Because yeah, I mean I've talked about certain teams, specifically one team, and look, I preface this by saying I am grateful for wins, absolutely, but at the end of the day, um, we've owned some games we should have lost, if I'm being 100% honest, and you can definitely say that about this last game against the Raiders. Winning 19 to 17 off of albeit I was a little bit confused about the call as well. I'm not sure um, what happened there. I will be honest with you. I thought the play was called dead because of a false start. Apparently, it was an illegal motion. Um, and we recovered the fumble. Game's over. Um, before people, I mean, people are already going to say, like, oh, it's rigged and blah, blah, blah. And it's not rigged. Okay. Can you just shut up with that? And look, there are a lot of questionable plays that go on every weekend, but because it's the Chiefs, it's just going to be amplified that much more. So if we're gonna, say that games are rigged and this and that, let's be consistent, huh? Anyways, anyways, let's get into this top 10 list. All right. So just before I get into this list, I want to give you a refresher of what my last top 10 list was um, through 9 weeks. So this last one I just did. Number 10, I had the Steelers. 9, I had the Falcons. 8, I had the Eagles. 7, I had the Bills. 6, I had the Packers. 5, I had the Vikings. 4, I had the Commanders. 3, I had the Ravens. 2, I had the Lions. 1, I had the Chiefs. Very different list this time around. All right, so let's get into it. So number 10, I have the Washington Commanders. I actually just went to this past game where they played the Titans. I went with my girlfriend and her family. We went for her dad's birthday, and it was his first time watching an NFL game live at the stadium. So that was pretty cool for him to go in person. A fight almost broke out within like the first 5 minutes. I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. But it all worked out, needless to say. But it was a great game. They blew out the Titans 42-19. It was 28 to nothing at one point. Um, yeah, either 21 nothing or 28 nothing. At half it was 28-7. Yeah, I think it was 28 nothing at one point. Um they tried to mount a little comeback the Titans did at one point. It was like 30, no, it was like 28-13. And it was funny because there was two guys, I assumed they were friends. One was a Commander fan, one was a Titans fan, and they were just talking smack the whole time, right? As one football fan does to another. And they got up and they scored a field goal to put it 28-13. Keep in mind they were down 28 nothing, right? So you scored 13 straight points. I guess you're feeling yourself a little bit, even though you're still down 15. And he was feeling himself. He's like, "Oh yeah, let's go, we're in it," blah blah. And then Washington goes down and scores again, 35-13, and then it just kind of, 42-19 ball game, never really close. And they look great. Brian Robinson, I mean, I have him on my fantasy, so I'm a little bit biased towards him just for but look, I do my scouting, right? I look for certain players, diamonds in the rough, if you will. Not that he's necessarily diamond in the rough. I mean, he's a pretty good back. People know about him. Um, but he's just been injured a lot. That's really been a tough thing for him to shake, and there hasn't been a lot of consistency for him staying on the field in that respect. I actually didn't think he was going to play on Sunday. He was questionable going into the game, but he ended up playing. He had a great game. Terry McLaurin, again, he's just a great player. He had two touchdowns um, against the Titans. And Jaden Daniels, still a solid game. Again, still concerned about just about his mobility and being able to take hits and things of that nature when it comes to that specifically. But defense looked great on the Commander side. And look, although I'll give the Titans a lot of crap because they're just not a good team, their defense is stout. I mean, when it comes to overall defensive statistics, they're like top five or top three in almost all of them. And the Commanders hung 42 on them yesterday. So I think that says a lot. And this is a really big game that Washington needed to win, especially given they had lost three straight going into this game. I had them number four overall last time. They were 7-2 at the time, and now they're 8-5. So they really needed to right the ship there. So that was a good win for Washington there. They're still a great team, in my opinion. I think the Eagles are the team to beat in their division, and quite possibly, if not Detroit, aside from Detroit being the top team in the entire NFC. So, but I still think the Commanders can be a solid wild card team, and see what happens come playoff time. But um, yeah, so I have Washington right now at number 10. Number nine, I have the Chargers. They replaced the Falcons, who are sitting at 6-6. Yeah, they actually, is it 6-6 or is it 6-7? Let me just fact check myself here really quickly, just because I thought I saw 6-6, but I could be wrong here. Yeah, no, they're 6-6. Okay, just had to double check that. Um, but yeah, I mean. They're number nine because they have played solid so far this season, but they also kind of barely win this game after Kirk Cousins threw four interceptions. He has thrown I'm sorry, six interceptions in the past three games, four in this past one against the Chargers, including a pick six. But look, Chargers compared to last year under Brandon Staley and seasons prior under the Staley regime. Jim Harbaugh has really turned this team around. And look, yes, they're a division rival. I typically am not a Charger fan, but I like Justin Herbert. He's a great player. I have um, no beef towards Jim Harbaugh. I thought what he did at Michigan was great, right? And you're really seeing the turnaround with this team. Again, I out of all the teams in the division, they're the ones that I fear the most. Right, Denver is right there. Honestly, it's like a 1A, 1B. Um, even though we should have, even though we barely freaking beat the Raiders, I mean, they still suck. They still have like 9 or 10 losses. I don't know what that says more about us or the Raiders, but that's neither here nor there. We'll get to the Chiefs when we get there. Um, but yeah, Herbert's having a great year. That defense is really coming along. Again, only allowing 13 points to a Falcons team that, though they have been underwhelming as of late, they're still a great offensive team. So yeah, Chargers are on the up and up. Quentin Johnson is really coming into his own. He did have that one game where he dropped like He had like 4 targets or 3 targets, and he had like 2 or 3 drops. It was not good. Actually, I think that was against the Ravens when they lost that game. Was it what, 30-23 or something like that? Just want to quickly fact check myself there. As well, it was the Har Bowl, if you all recall correctly, because it was Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh. Yeah, it was 30-23. That was right. Um, so yeah. Um, I'll be watching this team a little bit more closely over the past few days, or over the next few days, that is, because we play them this coming Sunday night. We play Sunday night football. Chiefs at Chargers, right? Yeah, I think they're playing in LA. Um, so yeah. Anyways, Chargers coming in at number 9. Number 8, I have the Packers. Um, Again, solid team, one of the better teams in the NFC, especially coming from that NFC North division. Um, Jordan Love, he's been having a decent season again. He'll make some great plays, but also give you some interceptions as well. And look, they've beaten the teams they needed to beat. One of the more impressive wins more recently from them was blowing out the 49ers. Now, look, the Niners are not the same Niners of last season. They haven't played great at all. And obviously, we saw that in display last night against the Bills on Sunday Night Football, losing 35-10, albeit in a snowstorm. A San Francisco team going all the way up to Buffalo and playing in December and really getting that Buffalo December weather. So, you can only take so much from that game, but in my opinion, it says a lot more about the Bills just because they're able to play that type of game in elements such as that. Um, but yeah, again, getting back to the Packers here, a good team. Again, they've had some wins that, you know, shouldn't have been as close. More specifically, that game against the Bears a couple weeks ago when they won, I think it was 20-19. But I wanted to I mean, the Bears are not on this list, but you got to feel for the Bears. You got to feel for them. Uh, Firing Matt Eberflus earlier in the week was the right move because that was just horrible coaching on his end specifically. I'm referring to the Lions here. They were 4-2 going into that game against the Commanders, the Hail Mary game. They lose that game 18-15, obviously off of that Hail Mary play. It was absolutely awful. They proceed to lose to the Cardinals. They get blown out. Play the Patriots, get blown out there. Then they lose 20-19 against the Packers off of a missed field goal. Vikings lose to them 30-27 in overtime. Lose to the Lions this past Thursday for Thanksgiving, 23-20 off of, I can't even describe to you what that was. I don't I can't even describe what that was. It was just awful clock management. You get tackled and you have like what, 32, 33 seconds left, one timeout, and it takes you like 24 seconds to snap the ball. And at 6 seconds, you snap the ball. And at that point, you can't really run a play and call it, you can't run more than one play because you got 6 seconds left. And then you just throw towards the end zone and it's an incomplete. And it's just absolutely horrible when all you needed at that point was a field goal to tie the game to go into overtime. Anyways, really feel for the Bears there. Um, Again, it was a win for them, great for them, and obviously, just this past one against the Dolphins. I mean, Miami, they can't win in weather under 40 degrees. So, another snow globe game. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, it didn't snow. It was just stupid cold. Or maybe it did snow. I can't remember, but it was stupid cold. Um, they won that game 30-17 again. Solid wins. But I don't see them going. I see them as a divisional round team, in my opinion. I don't necessarily see them as one of those top NFC championship contenders like the Lions, like the Eagles, teams like that. Um, but this is still a solid team. I still think they're the eighth overall best team at this point in the NFL. Packers number 8. Going to number 7 now. Got the Ravens sitting at 8-5 now. Um, Not a great game there against the Eagles at all. I mean, look, I think that's just a testament to how freaking good Saquon Barkley is. I mean, Josh Allen had an amazing game. He threw for a touchdown, rushed for a touchdown, and also received caught a touchdown pass. That crazy lateral pass from Amari Cooper, right out of a Travis Kelce playbook. Let me tell you that. I mean that was like a spit image of that. And Travis actually did it again against the Raiders again, right to P Ryan. Um, yeah, I mean, look, the Ravens defensively are turning it around a little bit. I mean, defensively they didn't play bad against the Eagles, but their offense was just anemic. It was not good. They were trying to give it to Henry, establish a run game. They just simply could not. And they were getting pressure on Lamar. They were really only rushing for the entire game. There weren't heavy rush packages against Lamar, and he just couldn't get anything going. And Justin Tucker, man, I mean, people are talking about how uh he essentially got punked, right, by Mahomes and Kelsey before that AFC Championship game last year. And going into that game, I think he was like a 90+% efficiency. After that, plummeted to 73% of makes. And I saw this stat, which was crazy. The Ravens have lost by a combined 22 point total in all 5 games. 22 points they've lost. Justin Tucker has missed a total of 22 points, field goals, and extra points. So, I'm not saying Justin Tucker is the reason why they're losing all these games, but he's also not a reason that they're not losing games. I may not have said that correctly, but he is contributing to the reasons why they're losing. Um, yeah, just not good, not good. Look, kickers have seasons like that. I mean, look, he's still a legend. The resume that Justin Tucker has is impeccable, right? Up until this season. So, you know, we'll see next season if he can kind of get out of this funk. But we're in the here and now. And the Ravens aren't thinking about that right now. Ravens fans aren't thinking about that right now. They're pissed. And I don't blame them. Um, but yeah, I mean they've dropped some games, and this is a team that people are like, oh, here come the Ravens, right? They want to come back and win it all after what happened last season, but they just can't get it going on all cylinders in one game. Like you'll have a game where the offense is, going crazy and the defense is kind of lackluster. And then there's another game where the defense is playing, but the offense can't get it going. And then you're missing field goals left and right, and that can cost you games. And so you just haven't seen it all be able to come together cohesively like maybe you were expecting. And look, also coming into the season, they got Derek freaking Henry. But then there's a game like this where they're able to bottle them up. Again, I think that's just more to say about Philly because not many teams have been able to do that this season so far against this Ravens team. So all credit to Philly. But yeah, the Ravens they've dropped a little bit. I mean, I would definitely pick. I mean, the 7 teams I have again over the Ravens here, I would absolutely pick them against them. So, uh, yeah. Anyways, all that being said, yeah, that's why I have the Ravens here at number 8. Oh, I'm sorry, number 7. Number 6, I have the Vikings. Look, 10-2 wins are wins, and I obviously need to keep that same energy, especially when I talk about my team and the Chiefs. Right, we're 11-1. Um, but I can admit that there are games that we should have lost, right? But at the end of the day, you still got to win, and the Vikings have done that. After they lost, I think it was like 2 games straight. They were at one point they were like 5-0, then they lost 2 straight, and everyone was like, oh, and then but they were able to right the ship, and now sitting at 10-2. But like I said, they've won some games that were close. I mean, just this past game against the Cardinals, they almost lost that game, winning 23-22. And similar to the Bears, I mean, the Cardinals just get some bad luck towards the end of games and they just can't pull it through at the end. Like they could have a far better record than what they have currently, the Cardinals, that is. Yeah, they're sitting at 6 and here. Yeah, they're sitting at 6-6. I mean, they could easily be 8-4. Easily. But that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But yeah, I mean, look, the Vikings, Sam Darnold is having you know, a renaissance right now in his career where, they just left him for dead, right? After everything that happened with the Jets, then he kind of bounced around a little bit, went to Carolina, then went to San Fran, and now he's ending up here with the Vikings. Obviously, not necessarily supposed to be the starter, it was supposed to be JJ McCarthy, but then he gets hurt and is out for the season, and then Sam Darnold's like, all right, well, here's my shot, and he's taking advantage of it. So, good for him. These last few games, there was a stretch where they only allowed 13 points against the Cardinals and allowed 7 against the Jaguars. Now, they only won that game 12-7. Very, very ugly game. But hey, again, a win is a win. Allowed 13 against the Titans, and then that really close game they should have lost against the Bears. 30-27, then winning this one 23-22. I mean, again, the it was a little shaky, that defense there. I mean, at the first 5 weeks, everyone was like Brian Flores' defense is hitting on all cylinders. And then they dropped those 2 games. Let me just verify. Um yeah, in those games that they lost, they allowed 31 points and then they allowed 30. So they allowed 30 plus points in both of those losses. Granted, one of them was against Lions, but the other one was against the Rams, which I mean, they're so they're so iffy sometimes. You never know what kind of Rams you're going to get. But then they've been able to lock it down again. Albeit again, against the Jaguars, not a great team. Against the Titans, not another great team, as well as the Colts. But look, the fact that they're still holding teams to that is still impressive. So, the defense is kind of shoring back up a little bit. And offensively, look, you still got Justin Jefferson, you got Aaron Jones, you got guys like that. TJ Hawkinson is now back. He's a guy that I know they've just been dying to have back. After getting hurt last season, I think he missed like the first 7 or 8 games or something like that. So huge to have him back. They're getting him back into the fold slowly. So, look, this is still a great team. I wouldn't in a one or done situation, not one of the top teams on my list I would be wanting to face going into the playoffs. So yeah, Vikings still a great team going in to this really last quarter of the season. But yeah, so I have the Vikings here at number 6. Number 5, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers sitting at 9-3. They've won 6 of their last 7. Um, Obviously, that anomaly against the Browns, but look, the Browns just turn it on against AFC North teams, whether if it's the Bengals, the Steelers, the Ravens winning that game 18-16. I mean, they just turn it on against the teams in their division, but other than that, they suck. So I don't know what that's about. Um, but look, they're playing great. They just put up. Now, look, the Bengals defense is not adequate whatsoever. It reminds me, honestly, and I can't remember if I've said this on this show particularly. Um, they remind me a lot of the 2018-2019 Chiefs defense when we were just stupid good offensively. Like we were putting up like 30, 35 plus points a game, but we were also allowing like 28 to 30 points a game. Like our defense was just so bad, and they were the reason why we were really held back. Um, that's what this team reminds me of. But you know what? That just comes to show you, and it makes me appreciate Patrick Mahomes more because I'm seeing Joe Burrow essentially go through the exact same situation Pat went through early on in his career with the Chiefs, and they're 4-8. I can't remember the exact record. We finished like I think like 12. We had at least 12. We had like 12-4, 12-4, something like that. Yeah. And we made it all the way to the AFC Championship game and lost in overtime. But that's not here nor there. Um, yeah, I mean, a very crazy stat that I have for you, in particular with this Bengals. I know we're not talking about the Bengals, but I just want to point it out. Bengals have scored 33 points or more in 6 games this season. They are 2-4 in those games. The rest of the NFL, I think, are like 52-1 when they score 33 points or more in a game. I'll just leave it at that. Anyways, Pittsburgh putting up 44 points. They look great. I mean, I love the run. I love their run game. Najee Harris and Morin. I mean, that's a great 1-2 punch. Um, Receivers are getting it going. Um, Pickens, I can't tell if I mean, I don't like him. Just as a person, he's just always starting issues, and that kind of annoys me because he's in a great situation. He's the number one receiver on this team, and he's just doing dumb shit. And Mike Tomlin talked about it a little bit because he had an unnecessary roughness or personal unsportsmanlike conduct, something like that. And Tomlin's like, he just needs to grow up. He needs to grow up. And I 100% agree. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Get a grip, right? But look, I think all things considered, a lot of the talk was about the Steelers team going into this season. Um, with the whole quarterback controversy, are they going to play Russell Wilson? Are they going to play Justin Fields? Start off with Justin Fields, 4-2 with him, and then Russ gets healthy, gets back out there, and then they're going on this tear with him. So I think, I mean, look, Mike Tomlin is a hell of a coach. He's going into Canton one day. But just the coaching ability of this staff and of Mike Tomlin, what he's just been able to do with his team, it's been great. And look, they beat the Ravens, they beat the Bengals, they lost to the Browns, and the rest of these teams, I mean, they should have been beat. That close game against the Commanders, and then they destroyed um, the Jets. They beat the Giants. I mean, and the Raiders. I mean, I wish we beat the Raiders 32-13. You freaking kidding me? Anyways, and they lost that weird game against the Cowboys, but it happens. Weird games happen. Coming up, I mean, I know I haven't really been looking ahead of the rest of these teams, but they play the Browns, they play the Eagles. Damn, that's actually a tough way to finish. They play the Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, and Bengals. Their last 5 games. That's tough. That's really tough. So I guess we'll really see what this team is made of. Because I'm going to do one more list as soon as we wrap up the season. So after week 17 or week 18. Um, Going in, yeah, like I said, going into the playoffs, I'll have a finished, polished top 10, and we'll see where the Steelers are at the end of that. But very confident they'll obviously be on there. And I mean, they already have a winning record, so they cannot not have a winning record. Um, but yeah. So, anyways, Steelers at number 5. They look really good. Um, but I got 4 teams ahead of them. Number 4 being the Philadelphia Eagles. Like I said, Eagles look great. Saquon Barkley looks great. Defensively, they look great. I mean, personally, this is the best I have seen the Eagles look under Nick Sirianni. And I know, obviously, like they had that run to the Super Bowl, but like I think they look better than that. It really is because of 2 things. One being that improved defense, and 2, Saquon Barkley. And honestly, I may switch to 2 because I think that addition to Saquon is huge. I mean, the guy is just insane. And look, even though it took him a little bit to get going in this game, he ripped out, I think he had like 65 yards in the fourth quarter. I mean, they pound and pound and pound and pound and chip away. And then once the fourth quarter comes around, he's still fresh as hell, man. He's ready to go. And I'm just like, man, I can't last like 5 minutes on a Stairmaster. And this guy is going 4 quarters like nothing. And it's just crazy. Like the stamina and the beating this guy takes. And it was cold as hell in Baltimore. It was so cold. Um, so that just says a lot about this team, but it also says a lot about, well, it says a lot about the team and Saquon, obviously, but it also says a lot about the coaching and philosophy that look, we're a running team and damn it, we're gonna establish this run game. And you got to give them credit for that because that's what the Ravens wanted to do, but they just couldn't this game. So, credit to the Eagles. They're sitting at 10-2. Yeah, they're sitting at 10-2. Um, I have them as the second best NFC team right now behind the Lions. Spoiler alert, but I mean, you guys aren't surprised there. They look great. I mean, I'm also just curious to see kind of who they have coming up as well here. Oh, they have a pretty. They could win out. Now, that game against the Steelers will be an interesting game, but they play the Panthers, Steelers, Commanders, Cowboys, and Giants. They could win out. These fools could win. They could finish 15-2. Oh, that might be interesting. You know what? I'm gonna have a separate video just talking about where I think teams are going to be ending up, depending on their schedule. Well, obviously, because of their schedule, that's really going to dictate how they finish up here. But you know, yeah, the Eagles, they look great. I'm very impressed with how they've looked this season, and yeah, I don't think any team is going to want to mess with them really because yeah, that's why did they let him get Saquon, man? Why did they let him get Saquon? It's just crazy. Anyways, so yeah, I got the Eagles at number 4. Number 3, I have the Chiefs. Yep, the Chiefs are no longer number 1. They were number 1 going into the season. They were number 1 through 9 weeks, and they're number 3 now. Look, still 11-1, still 11-1, but these past few weeks just have not looked great for them. So obviously, I came on here and I was like, look, I need to see a team beat us. And lo and behold, that happened. We lost to the Bills. Not the most competitive game. I mean, there were many points in that game where we could have taken the lead or make it a game, but losing 30-21, obviously the first loss of the season. After coming off of a game where honestly we should have lost to the Broncos, but we got that block punt or that block kick was amazing, winning that game 16-14. And look, we led that whole game against the Panthers, but it should have been by a lot more. I mean, we won that game 30-27. Offensively, it's the best we've looked in like the past month. But again, it's against the Panthers. Albeit they're turning it around a little bit. They made it competitive against the Bucks. They lost in overtime, but I mean, the Bucks are a better team. But and look, I get it. Divisional games, they always, no matter how good one team is and how bad the other team is, it always, is closer than it should be. Division games, what are you gonna do? But they're turning it around. Is all I want to say. Hey, they're a better situation right now than the Jets. Just saying. Anyways, sorry, Jets just caught a stray there, but it's the truth. Um, and then we eke it out against the Raiders. Look, it's frustrating because I know we can be better. I know we can be better. Look, many opportunities in many of these games where we could have just put the foot on their neck and just like run away with it. But they always stick around, and that's one of the most frustrating things about this team. And the play calling. There was a there was a point in this Raider game where it was like 3rd and 2, and I'm just like, let's run it, keep the clock going, because then we were going to give it back to the Raiders with a chance to win it with the field goal. And it's the first game Pacheco came back. He played great. I mean, he didn't have that many touches. They were kind of just getting him back into the groove. But there was one point he ripped off for like 25, 30 yards in one run. I think he ended up with like 44 yards and like 30 or 34 of those were from that one run. But hey, I'll take it. I mean, Kareem hasn't had those explosive plays. P. Ryan hasn't had those explosive plays. So, um, anyways, I'm like, let's run it. And then what do we do? Pat tries to throw a bomb to Worthy or Hopkins. I think it was Worthy. And it's an incomplete pass. And then we punt. And I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? It was kind of reminiscent. And I don't know if that's, you know, Like we didn't need a kill shot there. We just needed the first down, keep the clock going. We didn't need a touchdown there. Just keep possession. Don't give the ball back to the Raiders. It was reminiscent of when we put the final nail in the coffin against um, the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. It was like it was like fourth and short, and he threw a pass like 25, 30-yard pass to MVS, caught it, fell on his back. Oh, you're my chair. Fell on his back. Ball game. I don't know if that's what we were attempting to do, but it was just poorly executed. And honestly, I'm not very confident in Pat right now in his deep ball because there have been multiple opportunities where he's tried to give it to Worthy and they just haven't been able to connect. I don't know if it's on Pat. I don't know if it's on Worthy. Some of it is on both. I mean, sometimes Pat has thrown the ball and he's leading him out of bounds. Other times, Worthy, he kind of gets it on the sideline, but he can't get 2 feet in bounds. It's just frustrating, you know? Um, the defense played great all game until they let up those 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. It's like bang, bang. It just came so quick. And look, they still only let up 17 points. Like, I'll take that. That's on the offense. That is absolutely on the offense. It's on the play calling. It just got to be better. Now, look, I think because Charles Omeni, he was back, he had no impact on this game whatsoever. But the more reps he gets, he's going to get back into it. Pacheco is going to get back into it. And apparently, Hollywood Brown is going to be coming back here in the next few weeks, which would be huge. Just another threat for us to have. So I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm trying to think glass half full here. Because look, 11-1, it's great. We already secured a playoff spot. That's amazing. Um, but damn it, we got to start playing better football. I'm tired of winning these close games. And look, and I'll finish this up here before I give my last two. I'm happy with the fact that the players are visibly pissed that yes, they're winning these games, but they're winning them in the fashion that they are. Like when we beat the Raiders, Kelsey went right into the locker room because I knew he was upset. I knew he was mad. And rightfully so, because they played like shit. But they won, albeit, but he's mad. He's like, we shouldn't be winning like that. We should be blowing these guys out. Like it shouldn't even be a game. And so I'm happy with the fact that they recognize that. And I'd like to think that they're gonna, you know, make something of it. Genuinely. Like I hope so, because that was just bad. It was just frustrating. Like we won that game, but I wasn't happy. Like we were watching the game and I was just like, what the hell? Seriously. So, anyways, Chiefs at number three. I'll leave it at that. Number two, I have the Bills. Bills are sitting at 10-2. Josh Allen looks like the MVP front runner. And this team has just been great. I mean, Sean McDermott, I think he is up for a coach of the year, genuinely. With all of the talk this offseason, and I took part in it, right? And I can 100% admit that. Losing 6 of their 8 captains from last season, going into this season, I did not think they were going to be a team of this type of caliber. I didn't. Um, Defensively, they've been good. I know I said they were playing against kind of crappy teams at the point when I said that they had beaten teams of a combined record of 11 and 23. But look, you still got to play them and you still got to beat them. And I got to give credit where credit is due. Josh Allen is playing absolutely lights out. One of the best plays I've ever seen. It was that pass to Mari Cooper. He's getting tackled and then he just laterals it back and then he goes and freaking scores a touchdown. I was like, what the hell was that? In the snow, in sub-degree weather, at home in Buffalo. I mean, on Sunday Night Football. Like, that was amazing. I know for a fact, if Mahomes did that, it would be plastered everywhere. Um, but you know what? I'm happy Josh Allen is getting that type of love because he deserves it. He's a great player. Um, So yeah, and James Cook, I mean, that guy was running all over the place, especially, and I was even impressed with the fact that he was able to run like that in the snow. Because you heard it on the broadcast last night. Collinsworth was talking about how it's always so hard. It was either him or Mike Tirico, I couldn't remember, but it's just so hard, especially defensively. Like if you're a corner, for example, to establish that first step, that plant foot, because it's just so slippery out there and you're not. and you still got that layer of snow on top of like the turf or the grass wherever you're playing, it's hard to establish that first step. So like off rip, you're behind the eight ball because you just can't get your footing together. And the fact that James Cook was able to run all over these dudes was very commendable. On the 49ers side, Christian McCaffrey looked like he hurt. I think there's a PCL injury. He may be out for the season. It just sucks, man. I mean, an absolute it's just an absolute blow, right? I mean, this team has been riddled with injuries all season, so it's just not their season at all. I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs, so it's tough. It's tough, but I'm sure they'll be back next season. So, but yeah, back to the Bills. I mean, they've been playing great. They knocked off the Chiefs, but you know what? They always have that in the regular season. Um, and yeah, so I got to give them their flowers. Amari Cooper, I mean, that was just a great acquisition. Um, and their receivers have been coming to life. They really have. I got to give them a lot of credit. Um, and yeah, so I think currently, I have to say they're the team to beat in the AFC right now. I do. Again, when it comes to the playoffs, I'm talking just strictly regular season. Let me clarify. I'm talking about the regular season. All right. Playoffs come around, could be a different story. But right now, they look like the best AFC team. I have to give it to them right now because they beat the Chiefs. I have to be consistent. I have to be consistent. So, yeah, Bills number two. Number one, have the Lions. I mean, the Lions are great. The other 11-1 team next to the Chiefs, but I mean, they've just been playing better football this season. They really have. Obviously, they eked that one out against the Bears. Um, but look, I mean, they're really pounding teams. They are, and I mean, I referred to the Niners being riddled with injury. Same thing with the Lions. I mean, and obviously that major one with Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, that was a tough blow. They were able to get Zadarius Smith from the Packers or the Browns, one of the two. I think it was the Browns. But yeah, I mean that was a big pickup before the trade deadline. Um, yeah, I mean they're just a great team with Amon Ra, um, Williams. Sam Laporta, who's been a little bit underwhelming this season, but I mean, I think he's a great tight end. And then that 1-2 punch with Sonic and Knuckles, I think that's a super dope um, duo, like nickname for Montgomery and Gibbs. I think that encapsulates who they are as players perfectly. So yeah, I mean, from top to bottom, they're the best team in the NFL right now. I genuinely feel that way. I mean, if the Chiefs made it to the Super Bowl again this season, and we play the Lions, I would be petrified. I mean, the Lions are just that they're so good. They're so good. And yeah. So I mean, we got to get there first. We got to get through there first. But anyways, I think this is going to be one of the more competitive playoffs that we see. I mean, there's so many good teams, and I left off, the Broncos. I left off. I mean, I know I talked about the Cardinals, talking smack about them, but if they had like a win or two more, they would be on this top 10 list. I mean, they really would. And maybe like a team or two other that's kind of like knocking at the door. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good competitive teams out there, and like this is 10 of them, right? I think these are the top 10 teams right now in the NFL. I genuinely do. Um, and I can't tell you who's going to make it. I can't. I mean, they all look great. Um, and I think it's just really interesting that you have multiple divisions that have at least two teams that can be Super Bowl contenders. Genuinely. I mean, you have the NFC North. You have the Vikings, Packers, and Lions. I mean, all three of those teams could potentially make a run. Like, seriously, it's crazy. And then you have the our division, the AFC West. You have the Chiefs, but the Chargers, and they can, put up a fight. Genuinely, they can. You have the AFC North with the Steelers, and Ravens, right? Like those guys, they can get it going. So the parity is just great, right? Um, so yeah, I'm very eager to see how the rest of this season plays out because a lot of these teams, not Philly, I mean Philly, they have a cakewalk for the last 5 weeks, but other teams, they're really getting into the more brutal parts of their schedule. So, they're going to be battle tested going into this playoffs. It'll be interesting to see how they all kind of, you know, handle that. But anyways, I will leave it at that. I will be back later this week. I just want to talk more about general NFL topics and things of that nature. Not so much Chiefs related because there's just a lot going on that it's just great content. A lot. This has been a great NFL season so far. It's been happy. I've been happy to watch it and follow along with it, and I'm sure a lot of other people have too. So, anyways, I'll leave it at that. Thank you all for listening, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.